So boleh saya mula ya?
Boleh.
Okey, saya share slide ya. Okey, auzubillahi samii'al minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So, assalamualaikum semua.
Salam bro.
Alhamdulillah. So, hari ni kita ada berapa ramai ni? Semua ada ya? InsyaAllah. So, our lecture input consider, is it the last lecture input? Maksudnya ya? Lepas ni kita akan lebih kepada one-to-one assisting in your design. And I think this is the first time as well, the project consider like a bit more complex in the design. Second year, first semester. And maybe you need to expose to many design element, design factors during the design process. You need to grasp many components in the architecture. I think you have gone through the subject related to design principle, if not mistaken, elements in design and so on. I hope that you still remember elements and design principle that need to be integrated in your design process. So, Alhamdulillah, to me, although you have done your second semester first year, designing a small house, if not mistaken, but maybe not that complex, and maybe in terms of context as well, it's not that emphasized. Although there is some elements that you need to consider during that stage of your final design second semester first year. But this time, I think it's quite a big jump for you, even during your presentation, during your group presentation on the site analysis. So I think for the first time, you were asked to explain a lot of elements, components, and aspect related to design. So my lectures, input lectures today, the title is Relationship of Space, Nature and Cultural Context, which is very big title as well. This can be basically presented in a one-day seminar or one-day conference actually, but for a short period of maybe less than 1 hour, I just want to highlight some important things. But after that, we need to go further and go into the details. And maybe some of the explanation will be shared by your tutors after this in a group discussion to elaborate more. But to me, this is considered like a first step for you to talk about the relationship, especially space, because the architecture is about the space mainly, But at the same time, we need to understand what is nature and what is culture as well, Because when you design something basically on the space, like the site that we chose, right? It's an empty land, but there is a building surrounding the site. You are creating something from nothing into something. From no object, it will be one object that you're going to create there. And inside there, we'll create a space. And at the same time, we'll create outside space of your object as well. And you will design the student centers for whom? It's for people, for students. So students or user of the building, they have emotion, they have views and so on. So as a designer, when you design something for people, so you need to understand the cultural context as well. But I just want to maybe uh, highlight or define certain terms related to the topic of our discussion today, which is the relationship of space, nature, and cultural contact. So let's start with the architecture. What is architecture? Architecture is the art and science of designing building. I came across many students, first year students. Usually they don't satisfy why they need to design something that's not related to architecture. Most of them, if you ask, maybe I don't know, maybe you yourself, when you come into the studio or first semester, you feel that you are asked to do something that is not related to architecture. Because maybe in your mind, you think that architecture is only building. But within the building, there's a lot of things that you need to consider and you need to integrate in the building. So that's why in the School of Architecture Studies, usually we will teach you on the very basic principle of or element of design or whatnot. And I think last year, Architect Haji Bakar asked you to write in vocabulary, architecture or design vocabulary. So that is very important and is good for you to keep adding on your vocabulary books so that you will be familiarized with whatever required in the design process. So architecture is the art of science and design buildings. The practice of architecture include design from the macro level of the total built environment. For example, civic center, subdivision, urban planning, and landscape design to the micro level of furniture and product design. Maybe you are not aware, architect like, what is his name? Rennie McIntosh is basically, I think, 18 something architect from Glasgow. He's considered like one of the total designer because is not only designing in the macro level, town planning or whatnot, urban planning, but he's also designing a building and a furniture as well. So architecture basically covers a large scale of design skills. The practice of architecture is a multidisciplinary profession, integrating the skills of mathematics, science, art, technology, social science, politics, history, geography, and philosophy. And philosophy is a key component in the analysis of an architect's practice. It is the philosophy of practice that define the rationale by which they produce particular solution to definitive problems. As we discussed in Quranic journal sessions several times, we mentioned that we are actually problem solver in the bigger scale. And as an architect, is actually a problem solver. You identify the problem or the issue. Says talking about you are designing a student center, not only in a political sense, means that student require space for their activities, right? So this is the kind of the demand. How can as a university with more than 1,000, is it? No, more than 10,000 students. You don't have a proper student centers that you need to, to do your activities, particularly in the informal way or co-curriculum activities. So getting the student center is something will resolve some of the problem. We can say is that maybe as in terms of governance, it's like a political demand for the student to have it. But at the same time, the architects, the designer, all of you, is now responsible to solve the problem, to provide not just providing a space for the student, but how to create the space that will provide will provide the appropriate space or spaces that will help to achieve the goal of the students in specific, particularly in USIM. So this is the role of the architects, and you need to understand a lot of factors or component in this sentence mentioned that you need to have a skill of mathematics, means that numbers, science. When we discuss about environmental science, climatic responsive, this is something to do with science. You need to understand the sun path correctly. Someone asked me about how to put the photovoltaic solar cell, which direction is the most efficient to generate energy, electricity from the photovoltaic. So this require understanding on the science and arts, not only providing space, but how the space will look like and how the user will feel when they enter into the space. It's actually related to feeling, related to whether you like it or not, or whether you feel that is it appropriate or not psychologically. So this require a skill for the designer to understand people, to understand who is the client, and as we mentioned that your design will be for the next 5 years or 10 years, the relevancy. Some of you presented the case study of some student union in London. You can see it's very different compared to during my period in 1987, in 1990, when I was in Liverpool. The student union is not as what you can see here now. So same thing when you design student union in USIM to be used for the next 5-10 years. I think you must understand a lot of things related to all those components, mathematics, science, technology, social sciences, politics as well. When I say politics, means how the governance, how the government now perceive student as the future generation, and what the facility is not as similar as what we have in 1990s. Some of you has highlighted in your case study, in your presentation. I can see that the internet connection, IoT, all these need to be integrated in your design. So this is architecture, and this is you, and this is your basically your challenge, and this is the knowledge that every one of you need to be quiet. Okay, design. Theoretically, design involves an understanding of tangible element, including form, space, proportion, and all these terms you already learned during your, I think, theory subject and reinforced during your first semester of your study, which is the collection of design vocabulary. So this is the thing, some of it, yeah. Composition, line, shape, volume, and how to arrange them to achieve balance, rhythm, pattern, hierarchy, emphasize, and unity. This is design theory, and the design theory blended with the purpose or problem to solve results in effective design solution. This is what actually the objective of the design, which is problem to solve, and the solution must be effective, effective design solution. I used to say to my student, uh, how could design tutor give a mark? Uh, say, for example, three panel, give it the marks to the student. Uh, if it is a mathematical question or solution, so you can see, 3 plus 3 cube is 6. So no dispute, right? But how about in design? Can basically the evaluator have a similar formula like mathematics? Or is it something that, generally, basically, architecture or design have some kind of equation, that everybody can basically read, like what we evaluate in mathematics. Same thing in design, basically, because design have some, as we mentioned, there is a principle, there is a theory behind that. If you come up with some form or some space, we know as an evaluator in architectural student, we know that there must be a meaning behind the solution, behind the space that you created, behind the form that you develop. So because there is a interconnection between uh, one aspect or one factor into another. Similarly to mathematical, factor 3 plus 3 is 6. So um, so this is actually that you start to learn now, particularly first semester, second year, and the value of designer to their client. Who is the client? Not just the one that appoint you as an architect. Everybody who will use your space or your building is actually the client. The value of design to their client and cost in the thinking and the ability to combine form and function to achieve an effective and pleasing result. So this is another actually, if we can say, the difference between the graduate architects and maybe if we can say the graduate architectural polytechnic, from polytechnic or from any institution that is not gone through the process of designing thing. Design is in architecture. Design is the core element. You can get the same diploma maybe or the same degree in architecture related. For example, there is an institution offering the architectural technologies. like us, we offer Bachelor of Science Architecture. One of the main components in our curriculum is design. And this is actually the value. As a designer, you're going to be a designer, not just creating a form, but you have something else behind the product that you design. So this is the most valuable thing, and that makes different in our school, in architectural design based studio. Okay, and if you compare to other professions like engineer, for example, engineer, okay, they are excellent in their field, but why, if I may ask you, why any new project, the first person is invited is an architect, not an engineer? So because we, architect have a vast skill in different uh, uh, different area, as mentioned in the previous slide. Okay, you need to understand a lot of things, not only the skill. Computer aided design doesn't solve, cannot offer a designer. This is only a tool. But so that's why in our architecture education, we don't encourage you to start with design tool with the computer, but start with freehand. Start with design element, because this is actually something that different and important as architectural design. Okay, let's see space, because architect, as we mentioned just now, creating space. So space is one of the element of design of architecture. One of the element. There's so many other elements. Since our topic today is discuss about space, there's so many elements and components in architecture. And architectural design are created by carving space out of space. Okay, you are actually going to carve empty land that we already selected the site. You will carve space out of space, creating space out of space, and designing spaces by dividing this space using various tools such as geometry, colors, shape, in whatever tools that you will use. Okay, and finally, we will see at the end of our semester, so how successful actually you are carving the space out of the space that given to you, which is going to be in total built up area of 400 to 600, is it? Or 4,000 or 400 square meter or square feet?
400.
Huh?
400.
400 square meter.
Square meter.
Square meter. 400 square meter to 600 square meter. So spaces. And how will you identify the space? Yeah, in your first year, second sem, maybe not that complex spaces, but this time consider quite complex as well. I don't know, maybe it's going to be more than 12 spaces required. Okay. Just like art, architecture need to satisfy more than just the pure functionality purpose of the design. The composition, the space, the form, and the interiors body of the architecture give sensation and meaning of the design to create an experience famously known as emotional architecture, founded by the great Mexican architect, Luis Barran. Okay, this is our challenge actually as an architect. You are creating space. In building design, in building construction, or finally, if the building is there, engineers is just talking about the structural, maybe the functionality of the structure, the strength. But as an architect, you are actually creating that space that will offer the user of the space or the user of the building, either interior or exterior. So how would you create or what we call space making, space creating, So this is the thing that as an architect, we need to have always having a three-dimensional view. Okay, so that's why when I always tell the student that when you design, don't just design through D. When you have a design process, don't just through D. Don't just focus into plan, and after that forget about plan. Go to the section, The good designer should have three-dimensional. When you start making a space in two-dimensional plan, at the same time, you should think of three-dimensional, at least the section. Because the line that you make, any line is indicating maybe a wall, right? So you must imagine that although you are actually doing a plan, but you are actually thinking in three-dimensional. You should be able to imagine this line going to be like what? Is it going to be solid wall? Or is it going to be opening? Is it railing? Is it step down, step up? So things like that. So this is this is the thing that our job as a designer, right? And you are now, inshallah, at the beginning, we will assist you, will help you, inshallah. And space is one of the most important elements of design. Space is an intangible attribute of the design, defined in terms of form, space, size, color, smell, time, location, atmosphere. Okay. When we talk about atmosphere, a lot of elements actually will get involved. View, lighting, is it natural lighting, and then airflow. So things like that is actually the composition of space that you're going to create as a building. Okay. And it's going to be how the positive and negative element in the space created a unity of opposite that defines our visual field and experience. What you are creating, maybe you are creating, say, for example, an entrance. There will be negative. You will create another space, which is called negative space. So how this positive and negative space will communicate each other harmoniously, in harmony. So this is the thing that skills as an architect, you are not just creating space, but you are creating something that the user will, how the user will feel. In some of your case study, I can't remember, I think the last group, when you presented several case study of student union, one in London, the other one, where is it? The big structure. When you presented, I myself, I feel that although sometimes, I think one of your one of the building that you presented, I don't feel that a best design. It's a good design. When you show the how 3-volume space created almost everywhere in that particular building, I don't feel that there is a there is an appropriate way of creating space. It should be. So this is a danger when you start designing something with start with the form, big roof or whatnot, you know. When we design, we should start with how the user will feel when they enter your space. Okay, for example, from parking, they leave the parking and then go into the entrance. What should be the experience before they step into the entrance? There must be some feeling, or even before they approach to the building by car, for example. Okay, so there must be experience when they first looking at the building from far. So that is actually the thing that designer should be sensitive to offer to the user, how it look like the building from far. And when they first step at the entrance and entering the lobby, and you know, and after that into so this is the thing that I think as a designer you should try to be when you design, you are actually the user. How do you feel when you step into the building? So when you start creating the space, this is related to basically psychology, related to culture, you know, things like that. Okay. All right. Let's see next. Architecture and building context. Okay. Now, it's important. Yeah. It is what the sense. The term context refer to the circumstances or interrelated conditions that are relevant to something that exists and occur. In terms of the environment, context refer to conditions which surround a particular site or project, and to which it should relate and connect to in some way. The buildings and the structure that make up the built environment do not exist in isolation, but are conceived and designed order to respond, to support, and to enhance their surrounding. This is another challenge as a designer. Even if you ask to design a product, for example, to design a mark like this, so you must understand why this mark is this big, for example, and how to handle this mark. So you need to study all this, you know. So this is a product design, which can be anywhere, can be everywhere. But the building design is actually should be just appropriate on that particular site. This is the uniqueness of the design. So that's why architect cannot what they call. There is no what they call in product design. You can register, okay. So nobody can basically copy. So you have a copyright of the design. I don't think in architecture you can register as a copyright because architecture is only appropriate if you design the building at the particular site. It should be just appropriate to that particular site, because there is no similar site at that particular area. So this is the thing that when we say building context, is actually how the architect or the designer should design just appropriately for that particular location. Where should be the entrance? Where should be the building orientation? Where the building should face? Okay, because you have. So that's why when we discuss about your side, and then there is the only one road next to the boundary, and then we start to discuss where this building should be facing. In one of your set analysis, I think one of the group able to identify the building orientation, the face of the building. So this is the important of when we talk about building context. Okay, so it's okay. I mean, we will learn how would you come up with this context, building your building, student center, and site context. Okay, you have already discussed about the SWOT analysis, the strength, the weaknesses, the circulation, things like that, the sun paths and whatnot, and all those elements or will influence your design decision basically later on. Okay, let's move into nature. Just very briefly, nature is the broadest sense, is the natural, physical, or material world or universe. Nature can refer to the phenomena of the physical world and also to life in general. The study of nature is large, if not the only part of science. Although humans are part of nature, human activity is often understood as a separate category from other natural phenomena. Nature can refer to the general realm of living plants, animals, and so on and so forth. So this is the definition of nature. To me, from the micro level into macro level. And if you talk about nature, even the fly, the small, the ant is actually maybe among the smallest group of nature. But at the same time, when you talk about climate, element of climate, and now people talk about global warming, this is phenomena. People talk about climate change. It's basically covering huge the whole Earth and atmosphere. So, did architect will respond to this particular context? Can we avoid not to consider this nature? This is the thing. Yeah, I think last night we have a good discussion. What we call I can say that in my usra, in every week, I shall attend at least one or two group, just to discuss, to refresh, to understand the whole view of our life and our responsibility as Khalifah di atas muka bumi. And one of the Usra members says that today we are not sensitive to the creature, to the nature. For example, for the farmer, because of the what we call commercial aspect in the farming industry, you can just use urea as a fertilizer. And the cause of that is basically a lot of small creature died because of this urea. It's not, it's inorganic. Yeah. So this is the thing that same thing in architecture. When you design, okay, in our case now, your site is flat. Maybe not that okay for the first project of this kind. Flat area is okay, you can handle. But when you are given in a slope area, how would you handle it? And this is actually one of the element in the when you discuss about green building, right? So site management, will you respect the slope of the site? how sensitive you should think of the ecosystem of the site. So this is the thing that when we talk about architecture in the context of nature. Okay, only briefly. Okay, next one is culture. This is another aspect, and we can discuss these hours and hours, but I'm just taking maybe 5 minutes or 2-3 minutes to talk about culture. Culture is one of the most important concepts in social science. It is commonly used in psychology, political science, and economics. It is the main concept in anthropology and a fundamental one in sociology. The study of human society immediately and necessarily lead us to the study of its culture. The study of society or any aspect of it become incomplete without proper understanding of the culture of the society. Culture and society go together. They are inseparable. Culture has been defined in a number of ways. Some thinkers include in culture all the major social components and bind men together in the society. The major element of culture. So if you want to discuss this, you will get basically a degree on sociology, when you talk about culture. The major element of culture are symbol, language, norm, value, and artifact. Language make effective social interaction possible and influence how people conceive of concept and objects. Major value that distinguish the United States includes individualism, competition, and the commitment to the work of ethics and others. Yeah, this is a simple explanation. In general, when you talk about culture, say you yourself, you might be able to interpret. Say if you visit if you are not Kelantanese, you visit to Kelantan, you will feel that there is some different culture in Kelantan. If you go to Penang, there is also different type. You can feel that because of what? Because of language, and sometimes because of value, and sometimes symbol, even the food. So a lot of elements when you talk about culture, and even in our own community in USIM. I used to, when I was in USM, long time ago, 19, 1979, well, 1980 something. So we had a trip to UITM Shahalam, I think in 1981. And I feel that there is a different culture, architecture community or student, USM student community compared to UITM student community. So I can feel that different. Although we are student, even architecture student in USM, architecture student in UITM, there are different culturally. And if we talk about student, USIM student even, because of our philosophy, makes our community is different culturally. So maybe you are designing student center for USIM students. And and I said again, and now I will show you when we say that we have a philosophy and we have a target to achieve as a student, which is Gina, right? This is the thing that I think you need to understand. As a designer, maybe we start with a small project. It's not so complex in terms of social structure, in terms of culture. And you yourself, student is going to use your center, But so this is the best step, I think, for you to understand, to integrate the cultural context into your architectural design. This is the first step before you go out, before you are doing a complex project that will accommodate a vast range of people, different ethnic, different group. So it's good to ensure that you are actually providing space appropriate for student in USIM to achieve their goals as a student of USIM. Wallahu alam. Okay. So in first conclusion that I can say, because we are actually talking about architecture, space, one of the most important that we discuss, and then we discuss about nature, and we discuss about culture, and these three fundamental elements need to be coordinated and composed, need to be, as an a piece of architecture, a built environment that you're going to. But in each of these, they have a sub-components. When you talk about nature, you must not forget about sustainability. In Islam, tell us that nature uh, given by God, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is already there, the balance, the mizan. And we should be sensitive to ensure that we don't disrupt the balance of the nature. And it must be protected as an architect. And space, a lot more component, a lot more elements. I just mentioned here, indoor, outdoor, positive, negative. And there must be a hierarchy of space from the public, as I mentioned just now. If you approach, if you're going to drive, and if I myself going to drive into your building from far, I should, from public, very public, to semi-public, semi-private, and to private space. Okay, so this thing need to be understood and considered in your design. And culture, as we mentioned just now, we have language, technology, value, norm, symbols. I can't describe lots here. I think we need to have someone from social science or humanities to talk in detail if you want to know the component of culture. Okay, so our task is as a designer, as an architect, how could, basically this is only three, but a lot more. If you, when you go to the next level, higher level, you will basically talk a lot more. Technology, for example, architecture and technology. Maybe we don't discuss here, but a lot more. But this is only the main three components that you need to consider in your design, inshallah. Okay. So if I may relate space, nature, and culture, consider like three components that, well, can be standalone. But when you talk about architecture, there must be a relationship. There must be a consideration connected between one into another to create an architecture. And now you are given a task to design a student center, the architecture of student center in 2035, for example, and how you compose all these elements, space, nature, and culture to become a good architectural building or product. Okay, and this is going to be, for now, your client. You need to understand, I'm quite sure you already aware of the students that model graduan integrasi ilmu nakli and akli, which is USIM product, and how your center will help to mold the student to become this model of graduan, which have three main components: holistic, holistic in thinking, holistic in what you call, so have this kind of culture, seimbang, balance, and berkeusahawanan, entrepreneurial, berkeusahawanan. So, and this may be the smaller one called boxes, May I explain. For example, berkeusahawanan, it should be aktif dalam aktiviti starting schools and finishing school. Okay. Macam mana nak lahirkan entrepreneurial individual when you get your degree. So apakah aktiviti yang perlu dalam dalam student center you? At least what is the component? What is the small element components that need to be there to be able for the student to active dalam activity starting school and finishing school. Maknanya the whole from the first day you enter the USIM until the end. Aktif dalam aktiviti keusahawanan, memperolehi pekerjaan dalam tempoh tidak lebih 6 bulan. Berkeupayaan menyediakan canvas model perniagaan. This is the challenge. Canvas model perniagaan. Macam mana? You should be able to come up with the project proposal. Aktif dalam aktiviti inovasi. Inovasi. We try to integrate in your curriculum. Tapi macam mana? So these three component. For example lah, keseimbangan. Kalau kita bercakap pasal holistic, seimbang, balance, aktif dalam pengembaraan USIM JISO. Sekarang ni JISO ditangguhkan lah. Tapi mungkin inisiatif tu boleh dijalankan dengan inovasi masing-masing lah, insyaAllah. So this is going to be your client, the user of your building. So maybe in your design, you're going to start with identifying SOA, schedule of area. Ini bukan untuk your project lah. So you should come up with schedule of area. And so from now on, you should identify apa yang diperlukan. Okay, within the 4,000 square foot of built-up area. And this is just one example. You have the main area, space, and subspace. For example, this is a project of sports and community center. So dia ada 2 facilities. Satu sport center, sport facilities. Satu community facilities. Sport center, maybe you have sport hall, tapi dalam sport hall tu ada basketball, volleyball, netball, badminton, indoor football, gymnastics. So macam tu lah. So maybe similar thing, you need to identify the major spaces and then the subspaces within that. For specific, in this case, you have 2 groups. Or maybe you need to analyze the user group. In this case, for sports and community center, you have elderly or pensioners, adult, maybe housewife, women, youth, school children. So in your building, you need to identify as well this. Okay, I share some slides that from my previous student in UTM. This is just example during the design development process. After they identify the space requirement or schedule of area, SOA, in UTM we call space requirement. Over here we call schedule of area. And we should go next to understand the building program. Bagaimana program ni, bangunan ni akan berjalan, maknanya bagaimana programnya berlaku, apa yang berlaku. If there is a, in this case, I think the project is related to rehabilitation, rehab center. So dia ada entry support, ada justification, berapa number factors dia. But this is a detail lah, because this is a pre-thesis, pre-thesis level. Tapi maknanya sekurang-kurangnya you dapat idea. Mesti ada building program. In your case as a student, program dia apa? Mainly is co-curriculum activity. Supporting dalam JINA tadi tu, you have your program in the faculty, you have activity or your task in the faculty, and this is not in the faculty, something different. but is supporting each other. So your building should not repeat what is available. I think some of us as a lecturer inform you. For example, you have library there, you have masjid, but for surau may be required. Because sometimes you are busy with you need to have a surau as well, small surau for maybe for small numbers who are not able to go to nearby surau or to the masjid. So try to accommodate. So this is the program called building program. Okay, and then you start with the space relationship. And this is design thesis for made by Gan Jing Ho, my previous student. So you can see the entrance, office lobby, staff lounge, and then delivery, management, research, the main, and how this space connected to the main important spaces. Okay, and this is another to show maybe direct connected or bypass space, and maybe represent circulation. Okay, and in this case you can see that the bubble diagram is considered in what you call overlapping to the side. Okay, and not only 2D, but you can basically create spaces vertically. Most of students forget about this. In reality, when your building is completed, there must be a vertical connectivity as well, not only horizontal but also vertical. And you must identify in terms of view, and this is going to be interesting if you integrate both 2D plan and section during your design stage. Then you can create interaction, volume, juxtaposition and whatnot. Okay, this is another view. Okay, in the design development, this is a product of my previous student as well. Over here, in terms of space planning, okay, set space, transition space, informal and formal space, you need to identify as well. Private, semi-private, public, So maybe not like this, but at least during the design process, your mind should have all those, you are actually composing all these elements in your mind during the design stage and during the space planning. Okay, or you can have this kind of interrelationship. Okay, and related to outdoor as well. At the same time, this is during design process as well. So you might make use of what is available. Maybe the building nearby, maybe the vegetation nearby, or the even the slope. You can make use. In your case, you have this what do you call amphitheater. How that amphitheater will basically, when you have your building there, you transform the amphitheater to become an outdoor activity. All right. So that is also need to be not just a focus into your building, but at the same time, when you design, you must also consider the surrounding. The one that you put it as a SWOT analysis. Many students, they did a SWOT analysis, but during the design stage they forget about the what do you call a strength, the weaknesses, the opportunity. That you already identify during your SWOT analysis. Okay. I just want to jump into focus into the nature, how architecture relate to nature in a global view. This is a big issue. Now, actually, I just pick up the slide from my presentation to the university when we try to come up with the what you call main frame of bringing USIM as a ecological campus, eco campus. Okay, we talk about this issue, and everyone should know, including all of you, isu pemanasan global warming and climate change, and also directly in the impact on the social and economic destabilization worldwide, basically, worldwide. And in short, we can say is that to understand this is to understand the carbon footprint. As an architect, we should have this in mind almost, because we are responsible. As I mentioned just now, architects are design decision making. You will need to make maybe smallest decision to a big decision. Even you, as I mentioned just now, you make a line on your plan that indicate step up or step down, or is it wall, or is it made of steel or made of timber. So related to material, anything that you select have an impact to environment. If you choose mild steel compared to timber, compared to aluminium, they have a different carbon footprint. Okay, just maybe just an introduction to you, just to be aware, you are actually making a big decision. The impact is actually related to global warming, and at the micro level, you are actually creating or helping or influencing the people with their own carbon footprint. What is carbon footprint? Carbon footprint refers to the amount of carbon dioxide and other carbon compound emitted due to the consumption of fossil fuel by the particular person, okay, single person, group, event, product, or organization. If we talk about USIM as an organization, each of us contribute, have our own carbon footprint. I have calculated my carbon footprint as a staff of USIM, and I contributed 1 metric ton of CO2 every month based on carbon calculator that available easily. You can download. You can calculate your own carbon footprint. And I myself contribute 1 metric ton per month, means that 12 metric ton per year, because of the way, my traveling, what I eat, what I wear, and things like that, in a year. Okay, so every one of us, even you can calculate, I can calculate for you your carbon footprint. Okay, based on our behavior, based on our daily lifestyle. Okay, just to make it easier for us to understand, what is carbon CO2 emission? When I say that 1 metric ton of carbon emission, what is it? And carbon emission, this is the cause of global warming and climate change, because we consume, when we buy something, anything we buy, basically there is a carbon content in this. Or we eat something, okay, there is a carbon content on it. Or even handphone, or even the use of everything, the clothes that you wear, there is a carbon content on it. So that's why you can calculate your carbon footprint. The measuring of 1 metric ton of carbon is equivalent to, I think, similar to the size of Kaaba. The measuring of approximately 27 feet times 37 feet and 30. This is you can, if you can visualize, 1 metric ton is equivalent to this. And just imagine, I contribute this big in a month to the atmosphere, 1 metric ton. Okay, just to visualize, so that if we can't visualize, later on in our decision, we are not very concerned about this carbon footprint. That's why I just want to if I calculate number of pelajar ada 11,600 in USIM and then staff about 1,700. So approximately USIM community contribute 107,000 metric ton of CO2 setahun. Ini in average lah, in average. And if I calculate based on the size of bangunan chancellery, so if looking at jumlah keluasan kampus 634 ekar, carbon emission yang produced by USIM community boleh cover, kalau saya susun bangunan, kalau kita boleh imagine bangunan chancellery ni, menutupi almost 84% of the whole campus area. Itulah dia. Saya kemukakan ni supaya kita dapat visualize how serious. This is in 1 year. So if we are there in 3 years, so you imagine bagaimana carbon ni kalau tak ada carbon, carbon ni is there because of our activities. Kenapa saya bawa ini? Actually just to create awareness and dapat visualize. So sebab itulah kita, kalau kita bercakap tentang nature tadi, if we talk about nature, and as an architect, not only an architect, sebenarnya semua kita, even housewife, even mak kita kat rumah pun, dekat dapur tu pun banyak create carbon. Macam mana kita nak reduce carbon emission? By managing the kitchen properly. Recycle mana yang boleh, buat kompos, buangan makanan jadikan kompos. Sebab kalau lagi banyak sampah kita letak dekat tong sampah kat depan rumah tu, so lagi banyaklah tenaga diperlukan untuk angkut, untuk untuk dispose dan sebagainya. So that is actually create. So sebab tu dalam konteks Malaysia sebenarnya the carbon footprint for Malaysian in average per capita is about 8 metric ton. Macam saya kata tadi, saya kira saya sendiri 12 metric ton. Tak tahulah sebab saya banyak travel katnya. Bila saya key in tu, based on kenderaan yang saya bawa dan kadang-kadang balik Johor dan sebagainya, dia jadi 12 metric ton per month. Tapi in average rakyat Malaysia ialah 8 metric ton per year. So kita boleh reduce dan dia makin meningkat sebab apa? Sebab rumah-rumah kat Malaysia dah tak macam rumah ni. Kalau rumah kat Malaysia dulu, dia tak banyak pakai aircon, tak banyak pakai kipas, natural lighting, natural ventilation. So aircon tak ada. So sebab tu kalau tengok graf untuk Malaysian, carbon emission dia meningkat. And because of this. Because of way of life, rumah tak adalah lagi rumah yang macam ni, semua duduk rumah teres yang perlu ada kipas yang kuat, perlu ada aircon. Tapi macam mana kita sebagai arkitek, planner, this is the thing yang kita perlu fikirkanlah. As a designer, kalau kita dapat projek besar ke, projek kecil ke, this is the challenge. Kita bincang because we are in Malaysia, Katul Istiwa. Suhu luaran kat Malaysia ni maybe 26 sampai 32 darjah Celsius. Ada yang you presented in your graph begitu. Relative humidity boleh kata 80-90. Kelajuan angin 11-50. Solar radiation 1000 watt per meter square. Illumination more than 100,000. 10,000 to 100,000. But thermal comfort, you dah discuss kan? Thermal comfort for Malaysian. Ini. So the challenge is how dekat luar sana 26 hingga 32 darjah Celsius, but you need to provide thermal comfort indoor for your student center ni paling tidak 25.5 degrees Celsius at night, 28.5 degrees during daytime maybe kan, thermal comfort. So macam mana nak turunkan tu from 32 to 28. Relative humidity untuk menurunkan daripada 90 kepada 80 kepada 45. Kelajuan angin, solar radiation. Ini yang paling problem susah sekali ialah solar radiation from 1000 watt per meter square kepada 100 watt per meter square. Ini approximate. So kecerahan, kita cakap tentang daylight. Nanti saya akan buat. So this is dalam konteks natural punya konteks. Okey, ini yang saya sebut macam mana site. Ini yang dibuat oleh student saya yang lepas. Macam mana sun path. Okey, kalau nak lebih detail, sun path di Malaysia tu dia. Boleh nampak tak? Garis tu. Yang atas sekali tu. You have this during December. During December, matahari akan towards south, 74 degree. Okay. During June, dia 85 degrees. 74. Ini macam tak betul. Okay. Macam ni lah. Roughly lah. Then kalau kita 3D macam tu. And then, kalau you buat cross section of the building, ni dia. Kalau ni betul. South wall dengan north wall. North wall ni ialah during Jun tadi tu. Bulan Jun, kalau kita tengok matahari kita. Jun. Ini south north. North south punya section. Boleh faham tak ini? So sebab itulah south, sebab bangunan anda ni lebih kurang 6 degrees north of Katul Istiwa. Jadi dia punya angle tu 63.5 degree angle matahari pada bulan Disember. Which is south facing. Kalau you tak buat roof overhang, matahari itu akan hit pada dinding, which is akan berlaku heat transfer. Ini yang kita cakap pasal thermal comfort, heat transfer. How to control, to reduce, how to reduce this one, temperature ni daripada 1000 watt kepada 100 watt ni yang solar radiation. So this is, ini cara memahaminya. So kita kena avoid daripada direct solar radiation. So sebab itulah dalam diamond building yang kita bincang itu, dia punya analisis, dia come up akhirnya bangunan ini ialah bangunan self shading. Yang mana ini south, kita lihat bahawa south facing and north facing. Okey. Dia jadi macam diamond. Okey, dan dia create atrium. So this is solution kepada menurunkan CO2 emission, because dengan cara ni dia akan reduce energy consumption for air conditioning dan akan menurunkan energy CO2 emission. Okay, so jadi self-shaded. Okay, itu tentang avoiding solar radiation. Maknanya architecture space in contact, dalam konteks environment or nature. Okay, now biasanya lah yang kedua ialah ventilation. Mana teknik of ventilation ada aktif, ada pasif. Kalau pasif tu ialah no require additional power source, maknanya natural ventilation. So guna wind driven ataupun Beyonce driven. Dia ada dua. Kalau aktif, kita akan guna power, iaitu pakai air conditioning lah. Okey, kalau natural ventilation ni ada banyak strategies. This one ialah bila kita understand konteksnya pada nature or climatic, contohnya salah satunya analisa kita, then we will look for design solution. So this is considered like design solution. If you want to have a passive cooling with natural ventilation, there is several methods. Number one, cross ventilation. Number two, earth air tunnel. Number three, stack effect. Number 4, wind tower. Number 5, cool tower. Number 7, solar chimney. Number 4 tu courtyard effect. Contoh kan. So this is design strategies. So kena understand lah dari segi tadi disebut tadi. Maknanya dari segi scientific aspect kena understand. Okey. Ini contoh. Saya bagi 1-2 contoh. Ini disebut sebagai dalam konteks ventilation dia guna matahari untuk create solar chimney. Bukan memanaskan bangunan ni. Dia akan menyejukkan bangunan dengan solar radiation. Maknanya turn the solar radiation ni menjadi cooling effect. Sebab apa? Bila you create solar chimney ni jadi panas, jadi dia akan mengeluarkan udara daripada atas tu. Jadi akan menyebabkan peraliran udara lebih efektif di sebelah bawah. So itu akan menyebabkan menjadi natural cooling. Passive cooling. Menggunakan cahaya. Tapi kena appropriate lah. Sebab tu disebut solar chimney. Tak boleh letak bawah. Dia kena letak kat atas. So dia akan generate beyond sea driven. Ini nama dia tadi. Ini bukan yang kedua tadi. Ini jadi beyond sea driven. Bukan cross ventilation. Kalau cross ventilation ni dia simple, kanan dengan kiri. Ini beyond sea driven. Maknanya disebabkan bukan because of pressure, tapi because of negative pressure created by solar chimney. Benda ni di-apply dalam modern building in Malaysia, which is in Leo building. Ini section dia. Macam mana dia create solar chimney dekat bangunan modern. So this is through basically computer simulation, kajian, memahami konteks dari segi solar radiation, solar sunpath dan sebagainya. Kita mendapat expert peringkat awal ni dulu oleh Denmark punya consultant untuk design this particular system dekat Leo building. Okay, now the third is daylighting. This one you dah present kan hari tu, daylighting. Kalau kita nak memahami daylighting kat luar tu, saya sebut tadi boleh pergi sampai 2,000, 10,000 lux. Tapi kalau you buat bangunan, the depth of the building, kalau kita lihat di sini 10 meter, so they will reduce drastically daylighting towards the inside of the room. If you have 10 meter depth of the building, so you tak akan boleh comfortable. Kawasan akan menjadi gelap. So how would you design a window opening that will bring in daylighting deep into the building? This is another strategi lah yang perlu. So dalam konteks ini, kalau kita lihat diamond building menggunakan, instead of very deep floor, dia pecahkan dengan ada atrium in the middle. So dia pecahkan floor tu kepada dua, kanan dan kiri. So you will get both side. So 10 meter tadi akan jadi 5 meter je. So you will get better daylighting. Okay. Begitulah juga untuk Zio building. Kerana orientation dia, north east west orientation. Dan bukan itu saja, dia tambah pula lagi atrium di tengah-tengah tu. So they will create daylighting not only in the middle, tapi juga room adjacent to the atrium, indoor room. Okay, bukan setakat perimeter room, tetapi juga room inside the building. Okay, so and they create blind as well, internal blind and whatnot. A lot of techniques. This is strategy during design process. Okay, this is space planning of the building in relation to respond to climatic or nature. Kalau kawasan kita luas, satu approach dia ialah dia create atrium tengah-tengah. So they will have, okay, dia divide kat sini. Kalau you lihat, there is a 3 type of daylighting, daylit, semi-daylit and artificial lighting. Sebab kadang-kadang kita tak boleh avoid dan kita ada room ataupun bilik yang kita memang terpaksa guna artificial lighting. Contohnya bilik mesyuarat. Bilik mesyuarat ni tak boleh letak dekat perimeter. Sebab bilik mesyuarat ni biasanya kita akan tumpu ada PowerPoint presentation. Kita tak boleh dihalang oleh cahaya daripada natural lighting. So untuk itu bilik mesyuarat mesti diletak di tengah-tengah supaya tidak mengganggu. Tetapi bilik-bilik office contohnya, kalau you nak design nanti bilik-bilik kecil untuk presiden ke setiausaha ke apa kan, Kalau boleh dekat perimeter wall, because usually they will stay there longer hours and then they will get natural lighting. Okay. Dan kalau terpaksa dia ada semi delete di situ. In between. So if you can create semi delete ni dengan mengadakan partition wall with the glass wall. Contoh macam ni. Kalau sini dia kita nampak sebelah kiri tu gambar tu kan. Dia pakai glass wall. Jadi glass wall tu dia boleh penetrate into the corridor from the perimeter of room, and then they will basically penetrate that lighting into the semi-delete room lah. Okay, so this is what we are talking of macam ini kita bercakap tentang during daytime operation lah. Okay, dalam konteks USIM, sorry because I just want to relate towards the end to project you dekat USIM. So USIM ada plan strategik dan dalam plan strategik ada menyebut menyemarakkan kampus Barakah, dan dalam menyemarakkan kampus Barakah ni ada strategi perlu mewujudkan
Prof, your mic tak dengar.
tak dengar.
Okay, baik.
Okay, saya kalau jauh sikit dia perlu mewujudkan kampus hijau. Jadi alhamdulillah selepas kita tubuhkan Center for Sustainability, kita come up with blueprint dan kita ada aktiviti PTJ Lestari. So this is just to share with you. Alhamdulillah kampus USIM for the past 1 year lah kita kata. Kita dah ada some strategies, policies and juga initiative. Okay. So we want it to be Campus Barakah just now dalam kita punya apa kita panggil dalam kita punya strategic planning of USIM 2025. So untuk mendapat Campus Barakah kita kena jadi campus eco campus, dan untuk mencapai eco campus kita punya all the faculties and what not perlu lestari dulu. So this is the strategy. Okay. Sorry, mundur ke belakang pula. Okay. So just to relate with your dalam konteks you punya apa ni projek dalam kampus. Okay, kita ada 11 inisiatif untuk mencapaikan apa ni PTJ hijau ataupun pejabat hijau ataupun fakulti hijau dan juga kampus lestari eco campus, and untuk mencapai kampus Barakah insya-Allah. Dan kita ada aktiviti contohnya pengurusan tenaga dan juga pelupusan sampah, sisa pepejal dan sebagainya. All this boleh diintegrate dalam you punya design as well. Macam mana nak mengurangkan sisa pepejal. Saya semalam pergi ke UTM Johor, singgah dekat kantin dia. Semua dah pakai paper container. Dekat USIM masih pakai polystyrene. Plastik everywhere. Plastik pun saya macam ni, saya nak bungkus apa ni lauk, saya cakap. Baru dia keluarkan, dia kata tak boleh tayangkan. Orang yang nak perlu saja saya keluarkan. Saya sembunyikan, dia kata plastik. Plastik apa? Nak bungkus lauk. Sebab tak boleh nak bungkus dengan kertas kan. Okey. So kesimpulannya mungkin dalam konteks USIM ni kita menuju ke arah kampus lestari atau eco campus, tapi sekarang ni jauh lagi daripada pencapaian. Hopefully in 2025 kita menuju ke arah itu dengan beberapa strategi inilah. Contohnya macam tahun ini kita dah mula kampus lestari projek PTJ lestari, kita recycle, tandas bersih, jimat elektrik. And then dalam UI Green Metric ni ialah International Ranking on Sustainability. Kita dah masuk, kalau compare dengan tahun lepas, markah kita dah meningkat pada from 3,425 kepada 5,325. Hopefully ranking kita akan meningkat lah. So kita kena ada inisiatif dalam konteks pengangkutan, biodiversity, lain-lain lah insyaAllah. Okey, saya rasa okey, ada sikit lagi. Ini contoh-contoh bangunan macam mana konteks this is the flank rock ride dalam falling water, macam mana dia integrate, dia respect bangunan dia ni dengan nature, and dia blend together architecture and nature dengan waterfall yang mengalir, seolah-olah air tu masuk dalam rumah tu dan keluar kat situ, seolah-olah dia tidak menghalang waterfall. Okey. Ini UTM Eco Home di UTM lah. Ketika kita design masuk competition solar decathlon, solar decathlon China masa ni. So adalah elemen-elemen tu, understanding the sun path dan juga macam mana design kita tu respond to climatic condition. Menarik juga antara orang yang awal concern about bioclimatic architecture di Malaysia ni ialah Kenyang, dan projek yang sangat famous ialah IBM Mesin Niaga di Subang Subang Jaya ke. So macam mana konsep dia, so kena baca detail lagi lah nanti mungkin. Ataupun Hijaz Kasturi dengan dia punya menara rebung TM. Kenapa shape dia macam tu? Dia respon pada sun path. Dan juga bangunan Leo Building tadi, yang mana ini antara bangunan yang disebut sebagai zero energy building. Zero energy. Maksudnya apa? Maknanya bangunan ni bangunan green sebab they don't buy from TNB. Dia punya secara konsepnya. They don't buy kilowatt hour electric from TNB because they produce their own electricity by having so many PV. Dekat roof dia ni ada tiga jenis PV, termasuklah semi transparent PV, dan juga dekat parking dia ni covered parking guna ada PV. So the energy total energy demand for the year supply dia punya PV ni enough to supply 1 year punya energy demand, electricity demand. Jadi maknanya dia seolah-olah tidak contribute CO2 emission. Kalau bangunan semua macam ni kat Malaysia, Masya Allah, clean lah Malaysia ni. Itu entrance dia tadi tu. Okey. Saya ingat yang tu saja. Sedikit perkongsian lah. Hopefully ada manfaat. Mungkin terlalu terlalu kasar, agak general, tapi insyaAllah from time to time you have, yang penting you pernah dengar and then boleh tanya dan boleh discuss after that during our create session or whatnot, ataupun if you have time just make a further investigation, literature review based on terms and reference yang I tunjukkan sebagai contoh tadi, insyaAllah. This is first step, because you are going to have another 4th semester. I think you should consider elements and components that I mentioned just now. Wallahualam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Dr. Zain.
Okay.
Dr. Zain, saya ada soalan lah. Sebelum saya open to others, saya tanya dulu. Apa tu? In your opinion, does a sustainable building have a certain look? Maksudnya physically daripada luar kita tengok, kita memang dah tahu ke kalau it's a sustainable building? Does it ada trademark dia ke?
Not necessary. Depend on the viewer. Setengah orang layman dia mungkin tak perasan. Tapi for someone who have a knowledge on sustainability, they will recognize. Dia boleh detect kalau dia ada knowledge on sustainability. Because sustainability ni ada komponen macam saya kata tadi kan, in mathematics 3 + 3 is 6. So satu bangunan tu bila kita tengok, kalau kita ada knowledge, kita boleh nampak. Kita ada, macam saya sebut dekat student lah masa first class construction technology 1 kan. Saya kata you are now in the building industry. You jangan tengok bangunan macam layman tengok bangunan. You tengok bangunan, you tengok tiang dia tahu bahawa what is inside the column kan. Kalau dia nampak bahawa dia plaster, you mesti tahu bahawa dalam dia tu mungkin ada rebar, besi apa sebenarnya konkret kan. Tapi the layman maybe dia tak boleh nak imagine. So first step for the architecture student to join the as a building industry punya player, dia kena ada develop that skill. Sampailah peringkat, maknanya kalau your question tadi tu, kalau maknanya orang ada knowledge, dia tengok, dia tahulah the characteristic of sustainable or green building component lah. Tapi mungkin taklah maknanya accurate kan. Tapi sebab contohnya kalau dalam konteks Malaysia ni, first yang kita perlu avoid ialah solar radiation. Itu memang the most more than 65% of electricity will be need for air conditioning. It means that tadi tu kan gap between berapa degrees tadi tu, 26, 28, 32 degrees nak turun kepada 25 degrees. So maknanya the look, the facade of the building, the way kita boleh detect whether this building ni, kalau you nampak bahawa glass everywhere, tak nampak orientation, you know that how big is the electrical consumption for air conditioning.
Betul.
So maknanya begitulah. Lebih kurangnya wallahualam.
Okay.
Ada yang nak
Interesting presentation by Prof Zain. I think individually we play a role lah kan in ensuring that we produce or we generate like waste kita jaga, like for example salah satu contoh macam kalau saya di rumah lah ya, I make sure that I buy energy efficient appliances. And then what else, especially if you have air conditioning, mentality kita adalah like set 16 kan, the lowest temperature, because kita nak paling cepat sejuk kan. But really yang kita perlukan, so kita tengok balik kita punya need kan, yang kita perlukan hanyalah comfort. The comfort is just 26, 25 is okay already. So
boleh lihat kadang-kadang dalam kereta lah. Bila kita masuk kereta, I think kalau kita fikir secara logik, kereta saya tu saya tak pernah buka sampai kan dia punya scale of air ventilation punya rate kan, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kadang sampai 6 kan. Saya paling maksimum pun 3. Sebab memang dah sejuk kan. Tapi mungkin setengah orang pasal dia dah biasa, dia akan zap 5. Kan? Dia punya air pressure tu. So sama juga dekat rumah lah. Memang sometimes kita kena kebiasaan tu kena ditukar lah kan. Mungkin dah lama kita macam you sebut tadi pasal temperature level of temperature setting for air conditioning kan. Sama juga dekat studio kita pun nanti kita tengok.
Allah.
Yang ada seorang student final year last year, dia buat kajian on kan kita ada 2 jenis air conditioning. Satu centralized aircon, which is memang there, and then additional split unit. Split unit tu patut tak boleh buka. Dia hanya dibuka apabila centralized aircon tu off. Tapi student selalunya dia akan buka semua. Yang dalam tu.
Buka semua is one thing, and then I notice tingkap pula dibuka.
Dia tak dibuka.
Allahu Akbar. Like we wanna control kan temperature. Kalau ni buka tingkap, of course tak control
semua.
Every 1 kilowatt hour we buy for our comfort tadi tu, ataupun kadang-kadang tak extremely cold 1 kilowatt hour kita contribute 0.65 kilogram CO2. Kalau air conditioning tu 1000 kilowatt, 1000 watt on in 1 hour, kita contribute 0.65 kilogram CO2. Sebab kadang-kadang kita tak dapat visualize tu yang kita tak perasan.
Betul.
It's just like individually, first kita start dari kita lah. Kita start controlling our own consumption. That's where we start. InsyaAllah.
Student ada soalan? Very good lecture ya. Kalau ada anything you want to ask?
Guys, this is the time. Think ni. Very interesting share today. Alhamdulillah.
Madam,
Ya.
Ya, ya.
kita kena kira ke berapa banyak air condition kita nak kena guna? Ke tak perlu?
Oh, very good question. Kalau boleh buat, cantik. Tapi kita taklah sebagai salah satu requirement. Tapi sembang-sembang nanti sambil-sambil tu boleh lah. Dia agak complicated sikit lah. Tapi kita boleh guna rule of thumb. Maksudnya kita kena tahu berapa, contohnya 100 meter cube of space kan. Berapa horsepower, berapa kilowatt hour of air conditioning contohnya kan. Cuma di peringkat ini kalau boleh try to implement passive design tadi tu. Saya fahami kaedah macam mana passive design. Kalau ventilation ada dua kaedah. Satu cross ventilation iaitu apa dipanggil wind driven, satu lagi Beyonce driven. And then dia kan dia pecah ada berapa tadi tu. Apa nanti mungkin kalau perlu nanti kita buat special session untuk discuss benda tu pun boleh.
Boleh tu Zain. Bagus sangat.
Menarik tu.
Jadi maknanya kita employ passive. Itulah. Itu yang saya kata, kalau lah boleh kita jadikan projek ni dan kita boleh present kepada university bahawa this is actually low energy kan. Belum kita pergi kepada renewable energy PV tu, kita as an architect sebenarnya PV tu bukan bidang kita. Tapi our design task is actually to our innovativeness is macam mana nak bring in daylighting into all area inside our building and then to optimize the use of natural ventilation. Kalau kita boleh fokus yang tu untuk projek kita ni memang sangat bagus dan kita boleh calculate nanti sebenarnya kita punya building energy index. Itu kita boleh calculate. InsyaAllah nanti kita cuba buat insyaAllah. Kita fokus kepada dua benda tu pun cukup dalam green. Dia banyak dalam green. Kalau tengok dalam Green Building Index GBIM tu dia ada 6 kriteria. Tapi 6 kriteria tu untuk commercial. Sebab tu bila student jumpa tu kan ada 3-4 lagi tak payah nak consider lagi sebab dia nothing to do with architecture. Dia related to mechanical and electrical. So yang related to architecture sebenarnya ialah natural ventilation, natural ventilation and daylighting. Kita cuba explore yang tu betul-betul. InsyaAllah.
Betul, semester ni fokus dia lebih kepada the passive design. Sebab kita aircon dia baru nak belajar, jadi belum boleh. Bila banyak lagi yang mereka tak tahu. Semester kita tak nak ada centralized aircon. Kalau paling kuat pun split system lah. So, yang besar-besar tu tak perlu, nanti tak faham kan.
So maknanya kita boleh design strategi kita start with natural ventilation lah. Design generator.
Passive design dulu.
InsyaAllah. Okay.
Sebenarnya kalau nak integrate those bunyi simple tapi sebenarnya memberi impact juga kan the area form tu ya.
Ya.
Tengok contoh Dr. Zai tadi.
Boleh nanti kita tengok dalam proses tu step by step insyaAllah.
Ada soalan lain? Tanya?
Sekejap madam, tak faham sikit lagi. Untuk studio center ni memang kita guna passive design, so memang tak ada aircon semua tu lah. Kita guna wing semua tu lah.
Minimum.
Nanti kita jumpa, saya cuba bantu you insyaAllah.
Minimum.
Focus on passive design.
Kalau
Try
boleh
to reduce the need for air conditioning kan. Try as much as possible.
Ini possible ya, sebab kalau possible sebab you all dah biasa duduk dalam aircon. Jadi rasa macam tak boleh without aircon kan. Tapi sebenarnya it's possible. If we design our building betul, it's possible to do it without aircon.
Yes.
Kita kita nak belajar benda tu dulu. Nanti baru ni dah apa years baru you akan masukkan aircon, other services lah.
I think it's good that our building ni is quite small. So you focus on those important aspects. Jangan sebab before ni saya perasan kalau pelajar dia start daripada brief tu konsep dia terus big building, terus do aircon, terus glass. So you try to step back away from that. Tengok dia punya through the small building macam ni lah kita boleh try develop benda-benda yang pasti design tu kan. Integratekan terus daripada awal. Ada soalan lain untuk Dr. Zaid?
Nak tanya. Kalau culture tu kan dalam slide tadi dia ada mention teknologi. Lepas tu dalam brief pun ada bagi tahu application of construction technology. Kayaknya yang expect untuk kita orang punya projek ni teknologi yang macam mana?
Simple and appropriate technology bagi saya lah. Semua bangunan ada teknologi.
Construction tu pun teknologi.
You tak ambil, you baru construction 1 kan? Construction 2 dah, timber dah kan?
Dah.
Construction 3 baru ni construction 3 dengan I lah. Okay, saya ada sebut kat dia orang. Macam mana kalau kita nak guna steel bangunan ni sebab dia tengah belajar steel sekarang.
Tak perlu semua. Dia boleh ambil a portion.
Okay.
Macam like the porch ke the portion of it lah.
Tapi kalau yang berani, to me lah, kalau yang dah berani confident pakai steel, based on my lecture kalau boleh pick up terpulang lah kan. Small scale tapi steel. Sebab you dah belajar. Kalau yang confident, kalau tak memang composite lah. Combination of steel, timber and concrete, insyaAllah.
Sebenarnya madam, yang ni dia tak spesifikkan untuk steel sahajalah.
Cuma saya sebut siapa yang berani.
This semester is concrete and timber yang dah belajar concrete and timber dah belajar. You can use those material. Tapi kalau on steel sebab baru belajar semester ni, dia boleh jadi a little bit of it lah. It doesn't have to be the whole building.
Okay.
Menarik. Any other questions from the floor?
Madam, dengan Prof nak tanya, kalau dalam brief tu juga dia bagi tahu pasal society rooms. Society rooms tu macam mana?
Bilik persatuan.
Kiranya kalau 60 hingga 100 meter square tu dia punya satu room je lah kiranya.
Soalnya
banyak room tu
kiranya boleh pecah-pecah lah.
Boleh pecah. Itu dia bagi total kan.
Itu total. Satu bilik besar tu nak buat apa? Lari-lari dalam tu.
Kalau you tengok yang contoh bangunan Leo building yang saya tunjuk tu, dia ada 3 type of at least 2 type of room. Ini mungkin tak apalah, pelan-pelan ni. Satu dia individual room. Satu lagi ialah open plan. Bilik society tu probably open plan lah, just cubicle. Bukan macam bilik pensyarah satu-satu tu. Sebab dalam public servant dia ada kriteria. Siapa yang patut dapat bilik satu-satu, siapa yang patut duduk dalam open plan kan. Kalau general office biasanya open plan kan, kerani kat situ, typist kat situ, pembantu pejabat kat situ kan. So dia open plan namanya. Tak apalah, yang tu mungkin kita bincang nanti from masa kita bila you dah come up with apa tadi saya sebut SOA kan. Then insyaAllah nanti kita murnikan kat situ insyaAllah.
Lagi satu, you can identify spaces yang mungkin common Contoh ada meeting room, ada yang macam society bukanlah setiap hari dia nak meeting. Once in a while dia nak meeting, dia boleh pakai meeting room yang common. Maksudnya ada apa tu? Satu meeting room yang boleh share lah between different societies kan.
Betul.
Terus possibilities lah.
Dalam office sekarang ni, even di market dia ada istilah apa, co-office, apa nama?
Co-office.
Co-office. Baca.
Co-working space kan?
Co-working space. Cuba baca, tengoklah internet, co-working space apa dia? Tu mungkin. Bukan nak apply tapi maknanya you aware bahawa dia co-working space. Itu dah guna untuk sekarang ni.
Yes.
So maybe konsep tu boleh apply dalam you punya ni.
Masa group site analysis tu design precedent pun ada yang dia suggest on spaces yang dia guna termsnya flexible, can change, can be morphed, can transform kan into furniture, dinding can be movable. Benda macam tu is quite interesting sebenarnya, especially sebab awak punya floor area ni tak besar sangat. So some spaces tu macam boleh make it flexible sikit. Okay lah. Ada any question lagi? Tak ada. Just nak tanyalah. So next week ada students yang dah start coming back ya ke USIM? Kan semua?
Ada. 6 hari bulan ada yang dah start balik.
Oh. Weekend ni coming back lah migrating. Oh ya.
Yang red zone tu akan start pergi dulu.
Ada ke yang tak balik?
Ada ke yang tak balik?
Dekat ni semua balik rasanya. Tak tahu lagi kalau saya tak tahu orang lain.
Travelling arrangements dah sorted lah ya Aja. Hari tu ada concern kan?
Okay. Itu dah settle dah.
Okay.
Tinggal nak pergi ambil surat je dekat balai.
Okay.
Okay. Kami semua doakan semua dipermudahkan lah ya.
Allah. Amin.
Coming back. Panjang umur.
Mask sentiasa on. Make sure you take care of yourself. Kan? Sepanjang perjalanan.
Jauh-jauh pada orang. 1 meter away.
Madam, saya nak tanya. Kan tadi kita dah Madam dah release grouping tu kan? Kiranya yang tu still lagi pelajar boleh refer dengan lecturer lain juga kan?
Boleh?
Yang ni untuk management je Aja.
Okay.
Supaya tak ada student yang tertinggal. Sebab kadang-kadang kalau kita tak ada buat group macam ni, nanti dia ada student yang tertinggal. So monitoring purposes is better we divide it into smaller groups lah. Okay, boleh?
Boleh.
Okay.
Tak
apa-apa
ada.
ya? Siap.
Boleh tutup recording kot Azhani.
Ya.
Boleh tutup recording kot. Nanti panjang sangat Dr. Zain punya lecture.
Baik.